Cycle 3, week 10. We made it only 2 more weeks to week 12. In our community, after week 12, we're taking a break for the holidays, so we have all December off, which I really enjoy because we're usually busy with family and friends at that time anyway. Let me know in the comments what you guys do in your communities, if you take a big break as well. To me, it's one of the big benefits of homeschooling is having that flexible schedule. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you what we did for Cycle 3, Week 10, New Grammar. And for review, we did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire again, which I shared about in last week's video. And I also wanted to remind you guys that I have a playlist of tin whistle quick helps and also like full lesson videos. So I will link that playlist in the description so you can find it easily. And if you've been around here a while, don't forget to subscribe, and I really appreciate your likes. And I do love interacting with you in the comments too. It's really nice to know who's watching my videos and if you're finding them helpful. So thanks to those of you who have been leaving comments recently. So first we did geography. First we found all the locations on our colored map. It's easier for me to point them out to the kids this way and say it by color. We pointed with our pinkies today, but we had to do a little pinky workout before we could point. So we said 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we had strong pinkies to point to the different locations. So when we found those locations on here, we pointed to them and said them 3 times. Then we marked up our maps. So I'll show you what we have on here. We have a lady, we have a hoe, a whale. You can see the little tail there, so we made a smiley face. We have a sailboat, and in Alaska we did a question mark. So I will tell you the story that goes along with those. I have a channel that I've found that I really enjoy, her geography puns, I guess, the stories that go along with finding these locations, and I do use a lot of her ideas, so I will link that in the description as well. Alright, so here we see a mom in Montana, which is really Montana, but we're calling it Montana because there's a mom named Helena. She is looking at her boy in Boise. He is using his hoe to dig Idaho potatoes. So, a boy in Boise. Then we did the whale up here. This whale weighs a ton in Washington. We're going to make washing a ton of whales an Olympic sport in Olympia, Washington, Olympia. We took our boats down past the whale. We were going to row, but with our Oregon, we had to sail them. So we drew a sailboat like Salem, and Oregon like Oregon. And Alaska, we took our boats up to Alaska. We wanted to know the capital, so we went around asking everyone, what is the capital? Juneau? And they would reply, yes. Juneau? Yeah. What's the capital? Juneau? Yeah, that's it. So the capital is Juneau, Alaska. The kids really enjoyed that last one. That was fun. So that was show me, and then for tell me, I would say, what is the state that had a state and capital that looks like a whale? And they would say the state and capital, and then they could erase it. We kept the maps out on the table for the history sentence, which we did next. First, I had the kids repeat after me as I showed them the hand motions as well. So for President Poke, we poked our arm, poke. For Mexican War, we did our sign for war. For Gadsden Purchase, we acted like we were buying something. For 1800s, we just did an 8 with our hands. For Affirmed Americas, we put our hand over our heart like we were pledging allegiance, and we shook our head like we were affirming Americas. Manifest Destiny, we did the sign that we did for Monroe Doctrine. Manifest Destiny. And spread across the continent, we said spread across the continent, and then the music gets faster at that part, so we went faster and kind of made it into like a little dance. So we listened to the music and did the hand motions. Then we used our maps to kind of get a visual of what spreading across the continent looks like. So we started on the East Coast and we drew lines to the West Coast and to all the different states over here. So as we were singing the song, we were drawing lines on our map. That was the first time through the song. Then the second time through the song, because it sings the sentence twice. So that was the first time we listened to the sentence in the song we were drawing. And then for the second time we listened through the sentence, I had them erase it. And then one of the parents helped collect everything up while we did the silly story for history. So for the silly story, I erased keywords on the board. This really helps cement those keywords into the kids' minds. So I fill the silly words in to where the keywords were. They say no when I'm wrong, and then they tell me what the keyword is. So here are the silly words I used. Instead of poke, I said popsicle. Instead of Mexican, I said Merry Christmas. Instead of Gatson, I said gobstopper. Instead of Americas, I said armadillos. Instead of destiny, I said dump truck. And instead of continent, I said Candyland. This is the visual I had up on the board for our history sentence. It shows a covered wagon. It actually went well. One of the girls in our class had presented on Little House in the Big Woods last week, so this reminds me of like Little House on the Prairie. So you can find this in the Scribbler section under the Learning Center on the CC website, CC Connected. For Latin, we continued on with the song from last week, which is to the tune of Yankee Doodle. So I'll sing last week's memory work along with this week's memory work because I can't pick up in the middle of the song. I'm not that talented. So in class, we did the whole thing too, and it's really fast, so it didn't take up that much time. Latin verbs have different endings called conjugation. Latin has no translation for articles a and the. Before we sang it, we did go through the sentence 2 or 3 times just to make sure we understood what all the words were saying. And we didn't get to this, but I had planned for the kids to do planks while we were singing the song, but it went by so fast, we didn't really have the chance. Next we did timeline. These are the abbreviated hand motions that we did for timeline. So I get these off of CC Connected, so these are the hand motions that people are doing in CC across the country. I'm just not doing all the hand motions because it can be a lot. But we're really building on a lot of the motions we've learned earlier this year, so this week I did include a lot more than I usually do. And after we did the hand motions, we did something new and fun for timeline, so check that out after this. Okay, so for Heian period, we did our hands like this, like showing the social system. For Charlemagne, crowned, we did the crown on our head, and for Emperor, we did an ASLE from our shoulder down to our hip. That's one of those that we've already learned. For Alfred the Great, we did an ASLA for Alfred. For the Great, we raised to the roof, and for England, we put one hand over top of the other. For Eric the Red, we signed red by pointing to our lip, so red. And Norse explorers, we acted like we were exploring and looking around. Norse explorers. For Vladimir the First, we did a V for Vladimir, and for first you do a 1 and then shake your hand, because this to show it's not a letter. Vladimir the First. For Byzantine, we did an ASLB, and then Basil also has an ASLB, so we just kept our B up there. And the second, we did 2 fingers and shook them for the second. Then for 1000 AD, we did a 1, and then 3 fingers on our palm to represent the 3 zeros for 1000. 1000 AD, and East-West Schism. East-West Schism. Okay, so we sang it through a few times doing the hand motions, and then we did a timeline parade. So I'll share how we did it in the class, but then there's also a variation you can do in your class if that's too complicated for y'all. Like if you have the abecedarians. But in our class, this is what we did. So we had 8 kids in the class, 7 timeline cards, plus 1000 AD. So each kid got a motion from a timeline card, and one of them got 1000 AD as their hand motion. So I told each child which timeline card they were. We practiced the hand motion together if they didn't know it. And then they all stood up and marched around the table in a circle as we listened and sang to the song. And when their timeline card came up in the song, they did the hand motion. It was kind of challenging for them, which is really good to keep them on their toes, and they enjoy a challenge. So this was fun. You can also just have them sit in their seats and do these hand motions as the music comes to their turn. That might have been less challenging for them than walking while also trying to do it. And then my idea for if you have abecedarians, you can do a timeline parade, but the kids just hold the timeline card and walk around the table, and when their card comes up, then they can lift it over their head. For the squares, I accidentally printed off the cubes in class. So on the fly, I just drew some squares up here on the board to show them what kind of a basic idea of the concept of what squares are. So 2 and 2 is 4, and 3 and 3 is 9. You don't have to go into all that detail, it's not necessary, but I find in my class if they have a little bit of knowledge, they stay more engaged. So I just shared that, and also I wanted to wipe any confusion away from them seeing the cubes because I accidentally passed those out. Alright, so after that we went through the song on the board. So I pointed to the numbers as they sang them through. And then the kids, the first time we sang through after that, I had the kids do a square with their fingers, which I said this is a rectangle, but a square is more even. And then I had them partner up, and I showed them that they could make a square with their partner with their arms. And they got creative with it, and they had a good time with it at this age. They really like doing collaborative work, so it was good for them to figure out how they wanted to do it. So some of them were doing squares like this. They found all different ways to do it together. So as they were holding the square with their partner, we sang through the song again. Then the last thing we did was I had marked on the board here, when there's a pause in the song, I marked a blue dot next to the number. So anytime we saw a blue dot, we would say, woo, which did get kind of loud in our class. But if you want to do a different sound, silly sound, you can do that in your class. So after we said 36, then we said, woo, and so on through the song. And that was a fun thing we hadn't tried before, so we might do that more often in the future. For English, we did the irregular verb tense of to lie. And first we said it a few times because these words are tricky, especially if we just sing them right off. They all sound so similar. So we repeated them a few times, and then we sang it to the tune of do-a-diddy, which goes like do-a-diddy-diddy-dum-diddy-do. So here's how we sang our English memory work. To lie, lie, lies, lay, lying, lane. To lie, lie, lies, lay, lying, lane. And then last we did science, the respiratory system. I used my visual from the Scribbler section on CC Connected. You can find it under the Learning Center. We did hand motions and a song. So first I'll show you the hand motions. I can't do them both together. It's too much for me. Maybe you're more talented and can do it. I tried to have one of the parents come up after we learned the hand motions to do while I was singing, but it's a lot to learn this week. So for nose, we pointed to our nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli, lungs. We sang it to the tune of A Tisket, a Tasket, which goes like this. What are some parts of the respiratory system? Nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli, and lungs. These are some parts of the respiratory system. And I got that from an older YouTube video, which I will link in the description as well for you. That's it. That's week 10. I hope you have a great week 10, and I'll see you next week for week 11. Bye.